Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday Wake Up. Today we're going to be talking about dialogues open doors. We've all been in situations where it would have been nice if we'd had some dialogues to help us. So let me get the iPad connected here and hit the play button, and there we go. So dialogues open doors. As usual with Peak Producers Approach, we talk about habits, attitudes, and skills. Our classes usually focus on providing us skills and tools. Today we kind of got both of them. We're giving you some tools, i.e. some dialogues and scripts, and we'll talk about the difference between those two, which is fairly subtle. But also we're going to be talking about some skills, how to use those dialogues and scripts. Obviously, the more you practice these, you're going to be able to initially have to be disciplined about using and learning them. Eventually, hopefully, they become internalized, they become yours, they become habits for you. And then all of that goes together to help you improve your attitude, your confidence, and all that will help you continuously improve and get better at your business. So, dialogues open doors. Everybody in this business, and even if you're just new in this business and haven't been in the business before, you've probably said to yourself at some point in time, dang, I had no idea what to say. Maybe it was I had no idea what to say to that salesperson who was being really aggressive and I couldn't shake him. So we've all been in that situation, and in this business, there's a lot of subtlety to this business, a lot to learn. I always like to say that this is not rocket science or brain surgery, but there's a lot of subtlety to this, and so it takes some time to learn and internalize things. And our goal today is to help you get started so that you more rarely or never have to say, I had no idea what to say. So let's talk for a second about scripts and dialogues. Script is usually something that is defined in the dictionary as a sequence of instructions to be followed exactly. We've all been on the phone with AT&T or people like that, and we can't stand it when we say, I am so disappointed, I am tired of this. And the person says, I understand perfectly, and I know I can solve that problem for you. You know they're reading something that they're trying to, it's a script. It doesn't respond at all to what you're saying or your mood at all. That's the problem with approaching these as scripts. And you can call them scripts or dialogues, I don't care. I'm trying to make the point here that I want you to think of these as dialogues as opposed to scripts. Dialogues, the definition of a dialogue is taking part in a conversation or discussion to resolve a problem. Wow, a conversation, taking part in a conversation or discussion to resolve a problem. Wow, that's very different than a script. So I would like you to, as a mindset, use that as your approach as you think about learning these and internalizing them, as opposed to reading something as a script and having to stop before you get to the end of the line. That's not what you want to do. So the advantages of a dialogue, I'm sorry, let me go back there. Going too fast. The advantage of dialogues. Dialogue means two, not one. So again, there's somebody you're talking to. You need to remember that all the time. Dialogues are intended to give you shape and context for you to then personalize and make your own. You have to start by memorizing them, absolutely. But where oftentimes companies and coaches that teach scripts, I've heard many of them say, memorize these and never ever deviate from these words because these are perfect and I've spent a lot of time developing these. I'm sure they have, and for them they probably are the perfect words, but I'm not them, you're not me. So take the shape of the context of the dialogue or the script and make sure you understand that and then personalize it and internalize it. Dialogues build bridges and open doors, and they've been proven to work through years of fine-tuning. So there's value to these, whether somebody calls them a script or a dialogue, there's great value. That's why we're training and providing these to you, because there's great value, especially for you newer folks who've not had experience dealing with people who can be difficult or tough or difficult to pin down or difficult to make a decision. So the final thing I'd make is, in terms of your mindset, to think of dialogues as being something that is genuinely you and not canned like scripts. So I think I've made my point about scripts. So we can call them scripts or dialogues, and I will do that either way. And step one is to memorize them. So, but beyond that, I like you to take them further and make them your own. So some keys to thinking about dialogues or scripts and talking to people. Mirror and match behaviors is the key. We were just talking about a new agent who sort of is very energetic and sort of gets up in your face a little bit like that, and that's exciting for those who are helping him in the business. In terms of when he goes out on appointments, he's going to hopefully need to make sure that he tempers that a little bit. That energy is going to be great with clients, but the thing is to think about your physiology, matching that of the person that you're talking with. This is obviously when you're meeting with somebody face to face. Sit forward, cross legs, etc., etc. Match them a bit. Don't mimic or mirror them and make it crazy or ridiculous. But if somebody's sitting there slouched back, you're meeting them in their living room, and they're slouched back in their easy chair, and they put one leg up over the arm, do not mirror quite to that extent and put your leg up over the arm of the chair, but also don't be leaning forward on the edge of the chair aggressively and formally. Sit back and in your own style. Relax. Oops, let's see. I've got maybe somebody online here. We need to mute. Oh, this is interesting.
هذا صندوق معي أغلبها دمام وزمان كان أو عشرة في الدخان تبلغ كل سنة كانت خسر كاير بملو نكذب
I'm not sure how to mute anybody else on here without muting me. There we go.
No.
You're hearing the whole conversation, both sides of it.
Yes, they must have gotten on the phone lines there. I've hit the mute. No, I don't want to mute me. So there, hopefully it's all set there. I apologize. So on we go. So mirror and matching physiology. The goal is to, somebody may not even consciously think, wow, this person looks awfully too relaxed or is too formal, but subconsciously they're going to read that. Speech rate. Think about that as well. I tend to be a fairly rapid talker when I can get going on something. So I need to be very careful if I am going on in a presentation, with somebody, a listing presentation, to slow my pace down, especially if they're slow talkers. If they're fast talkers, maybe I speed up a little bit. Be very careful, however, not to try to mimic their accent. If they've got a southern drawl, don't you dare drift into a southern drawl. That will be very offensive. And we tend to do that without thinking about it sometimes. So be very careful not to do that. But the pace of what they're doing, if they've got a southern drawl and they speak slower, then you probably should speak a little bit slower as well. Again, they're not going to consciously say, boy, this person's a fast talker. Subconsciously, though, they may be put off, and you do not want that. The volume of your voice. If somebody speaks very, very quietly, you should lower your voice as well. If they speak fairly loudly, you don't want to match them, but be aware, because these can have subconscious impacts on the other person, the tonality, the pitch, the grammar, and guide their emotion and so forth. Again, be very careful. Never, ever mimic to the extent that it becomes mocking or could be possibly perceived as mocking. So be very careful on that. So one other element of mirroring and matching is to repeat, restate, and validate phrases that people say. You ask somebody, why are you thinking about moving? Well, our kids are going to be in grade school next year, and we want to move to Carmel schools, or wherever it might be. So you repeat back, aha. So your goal, your big why, is to move to a new school system. That's great. That's an important reason for you. That's great. You're validating, you're confirming, and if you've misunderstood it, or if they say, and one spouse might say yes, the other spouse might say, well, that's it, but also the main reason is we want to be closer to my work. You've just brought something out by restating what they said and gotten them to rethink it a little further. So that's a good technique in all situations, is to restate with people. So the dialogue types, there's dialogues and scripts for almost everything. Setting appointments, again, you get a referral from somebody and you call them up. Your goal is to set an appointment. Remember, our goal every week is to add more people to our database. And so to add people, contact them and set appointments to get to meet them in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a coffee just to say hello, or whether it's something where it's a referral and they are actually thinking of buying or selling and you're going to be meeting with them to do a consultation. The goal is to get appointments. That's kind of job one for us in this business. So there's dialogues and scripts for going about that. There's open house dialogues, ways to go about trying to not just sell the house, but to acquire people as clients, which is, of course, we all know one of the main ways that newer agents can acquire new clients is to do lots of good open houses. For sale by owners, expired listings, we just had a class a month or so ago, earlier this month actually, with Lisa Treadwell, talking about how she had started in this business doing expired listings and for sale by owners, and she passed out a number of scripts and dialogues for that. Floor calls and sign calls. How do you respond to that when you're on floor duty or somebody calls you on a sign call? You can't just sort of aimlessly be wasting your time and theirs. Weekly client communication. Wow, that's one of the big things that the Peak Producers Training Program talks about is proactive communication. It's something that can separate a good agent, which we all want to be, I believe, and at the top of our game and very professional is proactive client communication. Buffini often says that frequency leads to brevity. We've all been in that situation where we haven't talked to a client for 3 or 4 weeks and nothing's been going in the market and they've had no showings, and we dread the fact that they may call us. We can cure that or minimize the negativity of that by calling them regularly, updating them on what we're doing, what's going on in the market, and encouraging them to have patience or to make changes. So weekly client communication. We're going to talk a little bit about, when you have opportunities like these, some questions that uncover the details. Again, these are obviously dialogues because you're asking questions and your responses are going to be tied to what their answers are, and you're looking to get information. Then, again, one of the Buffini peak producer approaches, the buyer process of elimination, working with buyers, and I'll be glad to chat with you about how this works. The goal is with buyers to make sure that they're eliminating properties as opposed to adding to an ever-growing list of properties. The goal is to eliminate, to come down to 1, 2, or 3, and then make a decision from there. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the peak producer referral dialogues. Again, that whole program and our whole approach is geared toward building your business over the long term by repeat business and generating referrals from all the people that you know, your inactive clients. And remember, we never call them past clients. They're just inactive, but they're still our clients. So these are all the different kinds of things. So I'm going to get into a few things here, give you a little bit of examples. And first of all, the open house dialogue. So, and there's lots of different varieties of these. There are sources. You can go on the internet and find real estate dialogues of all stripes and all sizes and various things like that. If you have a need for something that you haven't found in our resources, give me a call, give Gita a call, give your manager a call, whatever. We can get you other dialogues and things. But here's an approach that we like on the open house approach. One of the things that I recommend, that when somebody walks in your door, I want to know whether they saw us online or just noticed the open house signs in the neighborhood. What's the difference there? Obviously, if they see you online, it's got the price in there, so they know that the price is $500,000 or $250,000 or whatever it is. Many times, you'll discover that people who come to open houses and just see the sign are driving around in neighborhoods where they're out for fun and can't afford the house in that neighborhood. Now, does that mean that they're bad people and not worth you trying to engage and maybe help them buy a house? Of course not. But it tells you something very much about where their pricing might be. I like to say, so you're looking for a new home. These are all sort of open-ended questions. This one they can say yes or no to. Obviously, if they say, yes, we are, then you can find out what's their timing, how long you've been looking. If the answer is no, then you can say, oh, you just sort of seeing what the neighborhood's like here, or what brings you out today. You can ask further questions. The goal is to try to find out what's their motivation, what brings them to your open house, which will tell you how proactive or aggressive you might want to be in trying to convert them into be somebody to put on your database. So I love to ask this one then. How long you've been looking? Have you seen any homes you really like? Tell me about them. Now, these are questions usually after they've walked through the house. For open houses, we usually encourage, give people the information sheet, tell them a little bit about it, and then say, enjoy, take a look at the house. Let me know if you have any questions. And then when they come back down, then you can say, what did you think about this house, et cetera, et cetera. And have you seen any homes you really like? Tell me about them. So this helps you understand what they're really looking for. And then I love this question. So what would be your target move-in date? Wow, that really gets it narrowed down to, the next 2 years or so. Oh, that's great. I'd love to add you to my database. I have all kinds of information. Are you working with somebody right now? That's the key to find out, who are you working with right now? So on we go to the open house further there. What's your goal price range? Have you gotten all the info on this neighborhood? And remember, never have papers in the open house with all the information on the neighborhood, i.e. a CMA and everything like that you can hand them there. Oh, I'd be glad to send you some information. Oh, you're looking at that neighborhood too? Would you like me to do you an analysis on that one, to give you a better idea of where you are, and where the market is on that neighborhood? Give me your email address. So it's a great way to get the email address to send them that information. So is your current home on the market now? Wow, that's a big one. If the answer is no, if it's yes, then who are you working with? Oh, I'm working with Josh Mills with your company. Oh, great, congratulations. Josh will get the job done for you. You're always very gracious about whether it's a competitor or whatever. Oh, I did a deal with David Martin last year. He's great. That's good for you. But if the answer is no, who are you working with in looking for a home? Now, this is key. Don't say, are you working with anybody? This is where you don't want to go yes or no. You want to go open-ended. Who are you working with and looking for a home? It's sort of assumptive, which means you assume that if somebody's out, they are working with a professional. That sort of says, it's important that you're working with a professional, isn't it? Oh, you're not working. Well, wow. So you've just sort of raised that bar of how important. I'd love the opportunity to earn the right to help you find your perfect home. Wow. Love the opportunity to earn the right. Not, can I help you find your home? I'd love the opportunity to earn the right. Let's get together. I'd love to meet with you, talk a little further. How about tomorrow afternoon? And we get into the concept of CITO. I'm sorry, I hit the button there. Gosh, hit way too many buttons there. There we go. There we go. CITO, C-I-T-O. We talk about this a lot in the Buffini approach. That stands for come into the office. And this applies with open houses. It applies when you get a sign call from somebody. Anybody who refuses to meet with you to talk about the process is most likely not a serious buyer for you to spend time on. So you'll get sign calls and somebody wants to go see a house. Be very careful about that. We'll talk about that in terms of safety and qualifying people. But in the open house situation here, the goal is, hey, thanks so much. I've got some other people here in the house. How about, would you be able to come to my office tomorrow after work? How about 5:30? Or could I come to your house and see your house? Would 5:30 tomorrow work, or 6 o'clock on Wednesday work the best? That's called the alternative approach to it. So the goal, though, is to get an opportunity to meet with these people, to find out more about their goals and desires, and hopefully convert them to somebody that you can put on your database. And if they are not going to buy for 2 years, there's still value in having them on our list, because even if they don't buy for 2 years, if we talk to them right, they might give us referrals. So back to more of the dialogues here. The next one that we're going to talk about is questions to uncover the details. This is when you get somebody in the office, whether you're talking about a buying or selling. This one really ties more towards somebody who's thinking about listing. This may be the first conversation when someone calls you. Joe Banana gave me your name, said that you sold their house, thinking about selling our house. You've just gotten that phone call. You've never met these people. Well, one of the great questions is, how did you hear about me? Well, obviously, if they just told you, you don't ask them that question. But if they call and say, we're thinking about selling, how did you hear about me? Saw your sign on the house you just sold down the street. Or Wally, I was working out with Wally at the gym the other day. He said you were great. So key question, why are you selling? Right up front. So why are you selling? Another way to put that is, where are you moving to? Most people move because they want to move someplace else. They're not selling the house most of the time just to sell their house. They're selling the house because they want to move somewhere else. Schools, bigger, smaller, empty nester, more kids, closer to work. There's a reason that they want to move somewhere else. Now, we've been through periods, there's less of it now, where there have been distress sales where people had to sell. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what's the reason you're really wanting to sell your house? Why are you selling? Where are you moving to? And then that gets into their big why. And it's crucial that we understand their big why of why they're selling the house and why they want to buy a house. So where are you moving to? Have you ever sold a home before? That's going to be very crucial. A lot of people, it's maybe their first home. How was your previous experience? Wow. Remember, you ask these questions and then you don't say anything more. You let them fill the silence. And sometimes you have to wait. I had a situation I've talked about before with somebody in a situation. It was a current client that was working with on a selling situation, and he had a little misunderstanding on something, and he called up to complain. I apologized all over the place, which is what you do. Took full responsibility for the issue that had gone on, and stopped talking. And I counted to 25 before he spoke again. But I knew I could not say anything more after I'd said, I'm so sorry, da-da-da, I hope this, da-da-da-da. And I counted to 25. He finally accepted the apology and moved on. So the key is ask the questions, get the answer. Are you the sole decision maker? You want to know what their experience was. And a crucial question when you're looking at going out and visiting somebody's house and making a listing presentation, are you interviewing other brokers? Key questions. I'm amazed oftentimes when people will come in and say, I thought I had this listing sewed up. I didn't realize they were interviewing other brokers. Okay, shame on you. One of the big questions you ask, are you interviewing other brokers? Always ask that question. And then here's the key. When they say, yes, we are, we're going to be talking to one or two other people. It's good to ask, okay, are you by chance interviewing the broker who helped you buy the house? That's a fair question. Ideally, they say, no, we've not heard from them anymore, so we're talking to somebody new or whatever. Here's the key. When they're interviewing other people, always ask to present last. Presenting last, you have an advantage because the first two people have planted some questions in the potential client's mind. They've had a chance to see what other people are doing. So the potential sellers, your potential clients, are going to have more questions that they can ask you about your business. Whereas if you're the first one in and they've never sold a house before, this is the first house they bought, maybe they bought it from a builder, they really don't know what to ask or what's important. So when you're last, there's just an obviously immediate benefit from that standpoint. Also, being last always leaves the better impression, the more lingering impression. Plus, if you know you're last, you can be more aggressive, proactive at trying to close them in giving you the listing. There's ways, if you're the first or the second, that you can try to close, but many people feel awkward about that, and many potential clients might take that amiss, frankly, if you try to get too aggressive and close and get them to sign the listing when you've already been told that I'm interviewing two other people. That could be a real turnoff. So be last. I've had people, when I've asked this, who said to me, why? And I've said to them, it gives me an advantage. And they've said, oh, that's cool. I said, that's the professional. I recognize that's what I do. I market. So I'm going to market your house. Let me put that expertise to work for you. So boom, you've already done a little presentation. I've had people, just a few weeks ago, somebody said, oh, you're good. Somebody knew the whole point of going last. So go last. You also want to ask them right up front, what's important in the broker you choose? And what are your biggest fears and concerns? Buffini in Peak Producers talks about this a lot. What are your biggest fears and concerns? Most people, when you ask those questions, are going to be saying something like, I want to hear about your marketing plan. Because that's all people usually know about. I want to hear how you're going to market my house. And many of our competitors talk about their wonderful marketing plans and talk about that they've got many signs out in the neighborhood. That's kind of real estate 101, but there's responses to that. So I love it when somebody tells me that they're talking to one of those companies because I know what they're going to say, and we've got the responses around those. That's the 7-step blueprint, which we talk about a lot, and when the response to having a lot of signs in the neighborhood is, gosh, wouldn't that mean that company that has a policy of rewarding their brokers if they sell their own houses, sell their own listings, they're all competing against you? Wow. Would you want that? So, and what are your biggest fears and concerns? You're going to learn right then. Communication, because that's one of the biggest things that we have a bad reputation as realtors is communication. I want to make sure I can get the money that I need out of the house. Great. You're going to learn right up front before you've even seen the house and met them, some things right up front. So good stuff there, the questions to uncover details. Let's move on to another dialogue here. This is the Peak Producers Mayor campaign that is taught, and this is what Gino Blafari, the CEO of Home Services Franchising, the parent company of all the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services companies and franchises out there. I've told this story several times. Gino is the person who recommended to me 2.5 years ago or so, when we were first transitioning to Berkshire Hathaway, that we adopt the Peak Producers training from among the big three or big four out there, and he was very familiar with all of them. He uses this all the time. He called me a couple of months ago. We were talking about some other things that he called me on a Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. California time, 9:30 our time here, to tell me, to ask about something we were talking about, some commercial stuff we were talking about. And he said, "Hey, David, I got to tell you, I just arrived at my Starbucks. I went and did my workout this morning. I'm at my Starbucks that I come to every Saturday. And when I'm out of town, I go to a Starbucks wherever I am, if I can, Saturday morning. And I do the mayor campaign." And I said, "You really do, don't you?" He said, "Oh, absolutely," because he talked about that before. I said, "You really do?" He said, "Absolutely." I said, "But Gino, you don't sell anymore, do you?" He said, No, but I get referrals. And David, the average ticket on the houses in Northern California here is in 7 figures. So 25% referral fee on a 3% commission. You do the math. I get 2 or 3 a month that I refer out to agents. I said, "That's a nice little pin money, Gino." So this is the mayor campaign right out of the Peak Producers. And the reason it's called the mayor campaign is basically you're asking for people to vote for you. You're asking to be elected. So you meet somebody, Gino meets somebody at Starbucks. I've done this as well. My daughter has done this. You establish a little rapport. You're chatting with somebody. You comment. My daughter did this at Hubbard's and Craven's just last week. A guy was sitting there grading papers. She asked him if he was a teacher. She says yes. They began talking. He eventually, of course, asked her, "What do you do?" And she said, "I help people buy and sell houses." Turns out he's thinking about buying or selling a house early next year. Wow, it works. So, establish rapport. Usually somebody will say, "What do you do?" If they don't, you can ask them, "Are you a teacher? What do you do?" Obviously, you can sort of establish that. And then when they say, "What do you do?" Please, 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 unless you're the number one salesperson and sells the most listings in the United States, don't say, "I sell houses." We all know this, if you stop and think about it, when somebody says, "I sell X," there is a subconscious, maybe even sometimes conscious, but at least a subconscious pushing back. I don't want you to sell me anything. I mean, you all know this is the case. We all walk into the department store or our favorite, liquor store to buy some scotch. We were just talking about scotch. And somebody comes up to us and says, "May I help you?" Even though you know the scotch you're looking for and you can't find it, most of the time, what do we say? "Oh, I'm just looking," because we don't want somebody to sell us something. So do not say that unless there's a circumstance that says that it is the right thing to say. Talk about, "I am in a service. I help folks buy and sell houses. I help folks. I like to say that I help people with their biggest personal financial decisions. I've said that before many times as well. Most people, when you say that, will look at you and say, "Oh, you a stockbroker or a banker or something?" And I say, "No, I help people buy and sell houses." And 99% of the time, people will say, "Oh, I never thought about it that way." You have just positioned yourself in a very different way as a professional financial advisor versus saying, "I sell houses." So, take that posture, take advantage of that. So you let them know that I'm involved in buying and selling houses, and then you keep talking a little bit. And then there's the sort of the Columbo, by the way, you're almost at the end of the conversation. You're about to say, "Hey, it was nice to meet you," or whatever. "Oh, by the way," or, "Hey, would you do me a favor?" It's almost like you're doing research. I'm always interested. Whatever your own language is. Now that I think about it, If you or a good friend or family member was thinking about buying or selling a house, do you have a professional that you would either use or recommend to your family member or a good friend? A professional. Don't say a realtor, real estate agent, broker, a professional. Again, we're posturing this at a high level of financial professionalism. Do you have a professional you'd use or recommend? And if the answer is, yeah, we do actually. Oh, that's great. Good for you, because this is such an important decision. I run into people all the time, and I'm glad. Who do you use? Yeah, I'm involved in the community. I may have done a transaction. Who do you use? That's obviously going to flesh it out. And they may then say, well, gosh, it's been 7 years, and I haven't talked to them in 3 years probably. I don't know if they're still in the business. Well, I tell you what, you just opened the door there. I tell you what, that earn the right. I'd love to earn the opportunity to earn the right to serve your real estate needs. From time to time, I come across information about the market, about real estate, about taxes and things like that. Would you mind sharing your email? I put you on my mailing list, and I have no idea when you might be interested, but at the time, I'd love to earn the right that when you are ready, that I'd have an opportunity to talk with you. Is that okay? That's fairly harmless. Most people are probably going to say, if you've established some rapport, yeah, sure, that sounds fair. And they can always delete you or whatever when your first email comes in. So that's the mayor campaign. It works. I've used it. My daughter has used it. Practice it and try it. It will work for you, whether it's at Starbucks, the gym, church, wherever you meet, a party. It's a great thing at social gatherings where we're meeting new people. So let's talk about another peak producers dialogue. I think these are marvelous dialogues. This one is called the Big Three Referral Dialogue. This is how we generate referrals from our sphere of influence, from our inactive clients, even from our current active clients. So it's big three elements. You call somebody up, you establish rapport. I will tell you right now, there's one coaching and training approach in our business that tells you, when you call even your inactive clients that you haven't talked to for 6 months, that when you're trying to generate a referral, you call them up and say, hey, this is David Hasler. I'm calling for business purposes today, so I don't have a lot of time. I just want to know if you know somebody who's thinking about buying or selling. That's what they teach you for that approach. Now, maybe there are some clients that would appeal to. Maybe there's some of us that would work for. I'm not receptive to that as a receiving person on the receiving end. The BMW dealership that I've bought cars from in the past, I don't have a BMW now, but he used to call me on my birthday and every now and then, and was always just doing what you do. Call and establish rapport, and hey, keep us in mind. If your 98 is getting ready to go or whatever, if you're thinking about a new one, I would be very disappointed if he ever called me up and said, hey, it's Barry calling. It's a business call. I just wanted to see if your car's still doing okay and if you're thinking about buying a new one. What? Why would you do that? Anyway, there's appropriate people for that approach. That's not our approach. The Big Three referral dialogue is based on the Buffini approach of doing excellent service for our clients, establishing advocates among our clients who can advocate for us, and then reminding them and generating referrals from them. So here's the big three. You call somebody up, establish some rapport. How you doing? How the kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I haven't seen you for a while. Let's get together for coffee. Let's have lunch or whatever. Establish some rapport. And then say, hey, I just was calling. Just again, wanted to thank you and Sally for your past business and your referrals, helping me, letting me help you buy 123 Main Street 2 years ago. Remember what we went through to get that done, or what that was a great situation. How's it going? Are you enjoying the house? You ask them about it, whatever. And then, so that's number one. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Number two then is, I just want to remind you that I don't know when, if ever, you'll look to buy or sell that house and buy another one, but I want you to realize that as I've told you, I'm your long-term real estate advisor. So if you have any questions about your house, about adding on problems, you need a plumber, you're thinking about redecorating, you got a question on your tax bill, you wonder what's under construction around the corner over there that doesn't look like a house, call me up. I'm here to help you with your real estate needs and be your real estate advisor, whether you ever buy another house or not. Wow, that's wonderful. Isn't that great? And then that's the second one. And then the third piece, of course, is the, oh, by the way, again, or would you do me a favor, or as I think about it, you know how important it is to me because you've educated these people during the process of working with them. You've educated them that you work by referral, that you don't usually spend time going out and trying to meet people you don't know. You work by referral that allows you to do more time, spend more time with your current clients. If you know of anybody who's thinking about buying or selling, if you would remember to mention me and pass along their information to me, I'll be glad to follow up with them. And remember, when we get a referral from a client or an inactive client or a friend or whatever, we reward the behavior. We don't wait to reward the result. Because, again, statistics being what they are, not every referral is going to turn into a closing. Some may take a year or two to get to a closing, but some may never turn into a closing. So you don't wait and reward the result. You reward the behavior. And that does two things. Number one, it's against the law in Indiana to pay someone a referral fee who is not licensed. So you don't want to run afoul of Indiana laws. So you send them a handwritten note when they've given you this information. You put it in a Starbucks card or a Single Malt Whiskey Society gift card for $100 or whatever, whatever they like. And it doesn't need to be $100, $20, $25, whatever. Or if they bought $1 million house from you, maybe it is a $100 gift. But you give them a little gift card right then that thanks them for the referral. Reward the behavior, not the result. So that's the big three, two great Buffini approaches to generating your business. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about some closings for you to use. These can be used for almost any purpose, and the goal here is to give you sort of a whole menu of different approaches to closings. This is set up really, if you've got that call from somebody, whether it's a referral or a sign call, and they're thinking about buying or thinking about selling, you're trying to get a meeting with them to talk further. So the goal of these closings is to set a meeting, set an appointment. So the basic, simple, hard closes, let's meet, let's get together. The softer close is, hey, I really enjoyed chatting. When would you like to get together? That's a little softer there, and you're reaffirming that, wow, I really enjoyed chatting with you. Everybody likes to hear that. So when would you like to get together? So the third one then is, a direct approach versus an indirect approach. Can we meet today or is tomorrow better? That's sort of the direct approach, not quite as hard as the hard closing, but can we meet today or is tomorrow better? The indirect would be, would it be okay if I send you some information and then we can meet to discuss it? That's sort of more indirect. And again, you'll use the one after you've learned and practiced these that is appropriate based on the interaction that you've had, the tone and tenor of the person's voice and manner and their level of interest and motivation. And you'll know which one. And obviously, the more you learn and practice these, it'll be whatever it will come to you naturally, the one to use. But just being aware of these different categories, hard, soft, direct, indirect. Then there's the trial close, which is great. I think you'd agree we've covered enough here today that a meeting would be a good next step. So you're really offering them, so they're a lot softer. I think you'd agree that we've covered enough today in our phone call that a meeting would be a good next step. Wow, so that's a trial close. And if they say, well, no, I'd like to hear more about, how many houses you've sold in Pimlico Farms or whatever, then you're not quite ready to go to the hard close. So that's a good trial close. Some more sample closings. The assumptive close. Hey, it sounds like we should get together. I'm available tomorrow if that works for you. So you get it out there. Hey, it sounds like we should meet. That's something. You use that a lot in dealing in real estate. Then there's the negative positive. Hey, would it bother you or would you be offended if I ask you if you could meet? So you're really wanting to not be offensive. Would you be offended or would it bother you if I were asked if we could meet? That's sort of like, I used to ask girls out like that. It didn't work really well. Would you be offended if I ask you out? Then there's the take back. I've enjoyed chatting with you, but I'm not sure I can help you. Wow, think about that. Wow. I really enjoyed chatting, but I'm not sure I can really be of help to you. I'd be delighted to meet, though, talk further, and see if we can find out if there's a way I can be of help to you. I had a good friend who we always used to think he was a spy. He was a neighbor and friend of ours in the Washington, D.C. area. He told the story of flying back from Europe on a long plane flight there's a guy sitting next to him. It was a big talker, big talker, big talker, big talker, and Paul was sitting, I think, in the middle seat, and there was a woman on the window or whatever. And Paul was just very quiet. The guy talked, and then Paul would ask him a question or so. And Paul told the story of how he then, engaged the guy in his business, and finally then said, I'm not sure if I can be of any help to you. When it became clear that he had a service that might be of help to the guy, Paul said, I'm just not sure if what I can do be any help to you. And he just stopped there. And the guy said, well, I think you could. Let's get together. And the woman next to Paul punched him in the shoulder and said, good work. So she recognized that he was doing the take back. I'm just not sure if I can really be of help to you. So I want you to help me. Whoa, what a great approach. The take back. And then the tie down. Wouldn't it make sense to meet and find out? So I don't know who came up with the names of these, but I've seen lots of these kinds of things named different things all over the internet, but this is one that I just grabbed. So wouldn't it make sense? So again, you'll figure this based on the tenor and tone of the conversation and the way the other person is working to tie down. Wouldn't it make sense? And this is the one, the alternative choice. You can use this all the time for things. What works better for you, today at 4 or tomorrow at 10? This is golden, and this you can use the open house. You're standing there when you're trying to set an appointment with them. Obviously, this kind of thing. Love to get together. I used that as an example earlier. How about Monday at 4 or Tuesday at 6? My office or your house, which is better for you? You give them an alternative, and you're taking control in an appropriate way. So those great closes. So finishing up here with some things, some overall keys for making this approach work is to internalize the dialogues. We talked about that at the beginning. Not to memorize them. Yes, do memorize them to start. That's part of the learning process. You're going to memorize them, practice, talk to yourself in the car, force your spouse to talk with you and give you responses on these things. Role play with other agents. It's one of the things that Gita likes to do in her training sessions is to role play things. That's a fabulous way to get to the point where you've memorized it and then you internalize it so that it's not up here, but it's in here and down here. I touched my heart and my gut for those of you out in radio land there. So internalize, not memorize. Make it your own. Practice out loud and in your own words so that it really is yours. Role play with other agents and ask them to throw you curveballs too. If they just say, okay, yes, I'll be glad to get together. No, throw you some curveballs. I'm still not convinced I should meet with you. Why should I? Whatever. So practice, and you're going to learn to be able to extemporize or ad lib and then pull it back into where you want it to go. Remember, facts tell, stories sell. What we mean by that is it's always great when you're talking to people, whether it's at this stage of the game or another aspect where you're trying to help people make a decision on buying a house. Facts tell, i.e., 47% of the houses that sold here in the last year sold for over 95% of the list price to the sale price to list price ratio. Okay, that's a fact, and that may have some impact on how you maybe establish your initial offer. Stories, though, tell. Stories might be, you know what, I was in the office the other day talking to Josh. He told me he was out with somebody in this neighborhood just the other day. They made an offer on a house at 90% of the list price. They didn't even get a response on it. So I'm telling you these facts so that if you've told me your big why is you want this house for this reason, blah, 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 then, we need to look at these facts, and you've cemented it with a story of the wife was heartbroken, the husband was heartbroken because it had a cigar humidifier in it that was marvelous. So stories sell and cement for us the facts that we talk about with people. So again, facts, head, stories, heart, and gut. So stories sell. And repetition bears repeating. So keep these things in mind, practice them when you're talking with clients. Repetition will bear repeating in all these elements for you. So dialogues and scripts, call them whatever you like. Please don't just read and repeat them back like you were working for some big corporation and could not have any freedom. So the skill of knowing how to deal with any situation and to leverage your opportunities. So you never, ever again have to say, oh, I didn't know what to say. That may come up sometimes, but the chances of you minimizing that are much stronger if you learn and internalize all these dialogues. So getting in the habit of controlling and optimizing your abilities to be more effective. And this business is talking to people. When you stop and think about it, that's what this business is about. It's talking to people, negotiating with people, guiding people, leading people. So the more ability you have and the more it becomes internalized, i.e. a habit, not having to be a discipline, the better your attitude is going to be, knowing you stand on the solid platform of growing your business and making your life easier, having fewer of those, I didn't know what to say kind of moments. So anybody have any questions on our dialogues, open doors today? If I can get that to close down. There we go. See if anybody's out there. Nobody's out there in radio land. So anybody have any questions or thoughts here?
I wrote one down. When you were talking about the guy in California with the referral, if you're selling a 7-figure, but then you came back and said in Indiana you can't, because I was going to say in class we were told you cannot give financial, you cannot give money as a gift. So you could not do that here.
Well, two different things. Gino is a licensed agent.
Okay.
Gino is CEO of the company. He's still a licensed broker.
Okay.
So you can do that as a licensed broker. You can give a referral to somebody else, to another agent.
To another agent.
Yes.
Not to, yeah.
Right. So you can't give a referral fee to another agent, and they can give one to you. But you cannot. You're absolutely right. And I think that's probably pretty true around the entire country, that it's not legal to pay a referral fee to somebody, but a little thank you for giving you a referral that has nothing to do. I gave it to him before. I didn't even make a deal on this. So, and it's $25 or something like that. It's the thought that counts, that makes the difference on that. So, and the fact that, it might be a year or 2 years before there's a closing, there's no connection between the two, legally, ethically, or morally. Yeah, you are giving them a gift, but it's not paying a referral fee, which you can get into real trouble if you say, yeah, if somebody buys a house, I'll give you $1,000. Don't do that. So, any other questions? Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody.
And that'll